rabbinic source. That's not true. It does. We read it.
No, let's talk about
So,
was from last
That time of
Wednesday
year.
night.
well, we actually are going to begin today's class reviewing the halachas and the
last
hagim
Wednesday.
that are relevant to tomorrow night, known as Nittul.
Little Nach.
Okay, that's what we're going to begin with. And it's
Tomorrow,
actually
that's
very
right.
befitting of the subject we're doing today. We're towards the end of the laws of bathroom laws. Siman Gimel and Shulchan Aruch, chapter 7 here, on page 172 in the book. And just like the Zohar says, we have Olam, Shana, Nefesh. Every concept, every aspect today, time bathroom. What is the time bathroom? The time bathroom is Nittul Nach, as we will see. We'll explain that.
I'm going to be traveling during Nittul Nach.
Okay, so let's begin. So tomorrow night is starting for midnight is the 25th of December, and that's pretty funny. This told us Yeshka article was written the 25th of December. I just noticed right now.
So much for Nittel.
25th of December is the...
Tomorrow night is the 25th
Night
of
it
December,
starts.
starting midnight, and it's as follows.
It's
So
the time bathroom.
obviously Jews, of course, are forbidden from celebrating a day of idolatry, a holiday of Avodah Zarah. But on the contrary, we actually find it's not that we ignore the day as if it doesn't exist, but we actually find different halachas that are relevant, that are applied towards the night of Nittul. One of them is regarding restrictions in learning Torah. Today, in not all communities, in most communities, this is no longer practiced for one reason or another.
Oh, wow.
But if we went back to Europe, whether it be 100 years ago or 500 years ago, the old custom amongst European Jewry, which is Jewry that lived amongst the Christians, was that on the night of Nittul, there would be a restriction against Torah learning. Now, what's the reason why? Why did we restrict things, and where do we find this idea? Where do we find this concept of restricting Torah learning? So it's found in the writings of the Yavitz, or Yaakov Emden, said also Yenis and Eibeshitz, and so too we find in the writings of other poskim, such as the Rav of Germany. His name, he wrote the Sefer Chavis Yair, and others that are Nittul, we do not learn Torah. One of the reasons suggested in these Svarim.
So we do hold by it then. You said we don't.
Correct. I said today, for one reason or another, we don't see so many people practicing this, but 100% this is the old Jewish custom that we would abstain from learning Torah on the night of Nittul. Now, what's the reason why? One reason suggested in the Svarim is simply because this was a day that the Christians desired to take a vengeance for the death of their so-called Savior. And what better way of taking a vengeance than to persecute Jews? So the night of the 25th of December was an infamous night in Jewish communities for tragedy, and therefore they made a decree, the Chachamim made a decree of those times that people should not go out into the streets, and therefore you shouldn't go learn the Beis Medrash during those days because of that reason. Another reason that's brought down, and this is the reason recorded in Hayom Yain, is that the night of Nittul, just like we said before, that a bathroom, the physical space of a bathroom contains certain restrictions, so too it is with regards to time. The time of Nittul is a time that the evil forces, unfortunately, are able to nurture from Kedusha. In other words, we don't say that Avodah Zarah it's as if it doesn't exist. It doesn't have any power whatsoever, not even power in Klippa. No, it's Klippa. It's evil. It has power. It has power of Klippa. And therefore, it's if we don't take precautions, we can chas v'shalom give nurture towards the klipa of this night that's so that is so strong.
Wow.
So because of this is another reason why we abstain from learning Torah. And this one, many years ago in yeshiva, when I got into an argument with a number of my Litvish colleagues in yeshiva of not learning on Nittel. This was when I still learned in a proud Litvish yeshiva. So they were saying, how can you nullify Torah learning? How can you even do Bittul Torah for 5 minutes? You're not going to be learning the whole night. So I told them that, do you learn inside of a bathroom? Do you know how much Torah learning you'll be able to accomplish your whole life if you continue learning Torah in the bathroom?
Wow. So compared to that? Yeah.
So
Wow.
I said, I said, of course not. You're not allowed to. Well, just like we have the concept of a space where Torah learning is forbidden and it's damaging, so too we receive the tradition that there's a concept of a time. This isn't something, obviously a person can't create on his own a time that prohibits Torah learning, but this is a Jewish custom that's been around for many generations. This has nothing to do with Chassidim versus Misnagdim. Rabbi Salanter didn't learn Torah in the light of Nittel. We have a story that's printed in the Sefer. So a Sefer that compiles many stories of Gedolei Ashkenaz. It's written about 70 years ago, biography. And there he writes a story of Rabbi Salanter that he had a chavrusa he would learn with every single night. And the night of Nittel, they stopped and he didn't learn, and he brings a whole story that instead of learning, they did something else. He fixed his watch that wasn't working. He brings a whole mice. I don't remember the details of the mice, but what he writes is Rabbi Salanter's chavrusa. They did the minhag as everyone kept back then, and they did not learn Torah in the night of Nittel. I'll explain.
That's a good question.
It's a great question. I'll explain in a moment. The Rebbe Rashab, it's written that the Rebbe Rashab was not keen of those students who wanted to continue learning their studies and claim, under claims of Bittul Torah, and they ignored the fact that it was the night of, of 25th of December. So we find that Torah learning is not just about acquiring knowledge, but it's about attaching to God, and God has ordained to us that there are certain places on earth, such as a bathroom, and certain times of the year, that it's not proper for a person to be indulging in Torah learning, as the accomplishment of attaching to God will not be properly accomplished. The Munkacher writes that it was a certain Gadol Yisrael in his area. He was from, Munkacher is, I believe, in Hungary. In his area, that it wanted to change, swerve from the long traditional practice of not learning on the night of Nittel. And he went and learned. He went to the Beis Medrash and he was learning throughout the night. And people who were outside said that they noticed a very vicious black dog trying to get into the Beis Medrash, and it stayed there throughout the night. The Munkacher writes that this was the klipa of his Torah learning.
Interesting.
And then explains how dogs are connected with klipa.
Yeah, dogs are connected.
So what is Nittel? What does the word Nittel mean? So we already know we're talking about the 25th of December, but why do we use the term Nittel? So Nittel can be written in 2 ways, one with a tes and the other with a tuf. If it's spelled with a tes, then that means removed, like Nitila, Nato, that removed, and that means that this day is removed from Kedusha. This word has been used for many generations. We find it already in the wording of the Ramah, the Shulchan Aruch, chapter 148, in Yeridea. So we see that this is a very old name, and they already, even then, refer to this concept that it's a night removed from holiness, from Kedusha. Another way of it being written is with a tuf, and that comes from a Latin word, which natla in Latin means birth. And that's because they believe that their Savior, their so-called Savior, was born on this day. So that's the 2 different ways of it being written. Now, even though according to the secular calendar, the 25th of December only begins at midnight, nonetheless, we follow based on the Jewish calendar. So as soon as it's sunset, we abstain from learning Torah. Tomorrow night, we do finish our Torah learning sessions, chitas or whatever it is beforehand, and this continues.
You can't even do fikas?
We avoid all Torah learning.
Oh, wow.
Starting from sunset tomorrow
Okay.
until midnight. Starting from midnight, which here in Sfas is probably around 11:30ish. Okay, look in the calendar for exact time. We can once again begin Torah learning. It
So how
only
are we
applies
gonna
till midnight.
What are we going to do? Yosef and I are traveling tomorrow night to go to the States. So aren't
There's
we
no
going to
problem
be...
with traveling.
Right, no, for sure not. So obviously he's not going to be learning Torah tomorrow
Okay.
night till the next... But then the time change. So it's going to be longer that he's not going to be learning Torah.
Correct.
Well, he has to go by that? He has to go, like, not learn Torah for that long? It's going to be hard for him. That's why I'm asking.
You read stories,
You
though.
can read stories of, yes, Sipuri Tzadikim is making put this on the side.
Okay.
And you say Tehillim?
Tehillim is also, well, we always avoid Tehillim at night regardless.
Okay.
Oh, I see.
For the day?
From sunset, we avoid Tehillim starting from Tzesek Yechavim until Chatzais. We avoid saying Tehillim. That's every night, nothing to do with
Right.
nothing to do with 25th of December.
But during the 25th of December, during the day, we can say it.
The restriction of the custom is only till midnight. Of not learning. Starting midnight, it's okay.
Oh, okay.
It's not the entire 25th of December.
Got it.
So you could say Tehillim in the night after midnight.
Correct. You can always do
That's
that,
all.
yes.
Yeah.
So as we said, stories of tzaddikim are customarily allowed, as we will eventually learn. Just like in a bathroom it's permitted to read stories of tzaddikim, so too on the night of Nittel it's permitted to read stories of tzaddikim. Rabbi Weinberg, who would have a radio show on the Tanya, he daily, so at night, so he asked the Rebbe what should he teach the public on the night of Nittel, and the Rebbe told him read stories of tzaddikim. So we see also from here that even Tanya, even Chassidus, we don't learn on this night. So Nittel has become famous for the chess playing.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is that the game of chess is actually written about in the Gemara. It made its way to Shulchan Aruch in discussion of can you play chess on Shabbos. It's considered a chachma, a game of wisdom. And we know there's a famous picture of the Rebbe and the Rebbe Rayatz playing chess on the night of Nittel in 770 till today. Then tomorrow night you'll see, if you see pictures or if you go, if all these chess games are out and they're playing, some are machmer, they play even after Chatzos, the chess game. And this was also the custom of the Rebbe Rashab. He would play chess with others. And one of the reasons is because if you have to do something that's not Torah learning, let's do something that helps sharpen the mind, such as playing chess.
That's good, yeah.
And something the Rebbe also mentioned, something very interesting, and this is something that can show the Goyim, when Goyim see how smart Jews are in their chess playing, they see, wow, their Chachma is really great. This is also something that we would think, what can a professional Jewish chess player, what can he be attributing towards Yiddishkeit? Even the fact that he's a good chess player and he brings up the flag of the greatness of the Jewish people, that is itself already a purpose on its own. Other things the Rebbe mentioned, this relates to what we've discussed, is that we should use the time to sew the buttons the right way with the right over the left. So you can set aside the night of Nittel for doing that. Looking at pictures of the Rabbein, reviewing your wedding album. There's plenty of things that it can be used to do. Another the Rebbe here was trying to point out is that even though we can't learn Torah, we're not allowed to do bittul Torah. We have to use our time with something constructive.
We can't learn Torah. Can we talk Torah?
That's
We
called
can't even,
learning.
oh, that's also called learning. Wow.
So what?
You can't talk Torah because it's also learning.
Can you paint and draw?
Why not?
Never have time, now you have time.
There's a story they say of the Tzemach Tzedek that on the night of Nittel, the Rav of Lubavitch, who was not the Tzemach Tzedek, walked into the quarters of the Tzemach Tzedek and saw the Tzemach Tzedek poring over Svarim. And he told the Tzemach Tzedek, what are you doing? Tonight's Nittel. So the Rebbe said, tonight is Nittel. He closed the books and he said, why do you have to tell me?
He said, what?
Why did you have to tell me? Okay, another matter that is avoided on the night of Nittul is intimacy. It was a custom amongst in Europe. I keep on emphasizing Europe for the simple reason that in the Sephardi countries, they are mainly Muslim, and therefore they never had this concept of Christianity or Chatzma or Nittul, and these customs didn't come about there. And therefore, I don't believe there are any Sephardim to keep customs. It's an Ashkenazi custom. So the Ashkenazi practice as well was, we have the records of this in the writings of the Chassam Sofer, to close the mikveh on the night of Nittul.
They close the mikveh?
This was the Ashkenazi custom of back in the day. This has been discussed in length by the Poskim. Practically today, the common practice amongst most communities, some still do this, but amongst most communities is that they do leave the mikveh open, but many avoid intimacy on this night, and the best thing is for intimacy to be avoided at least until midnight, preferably the entire night, but at least until midnight. And the Poskim who deal with this write that many Choshe Yisrael, many of the Jews who have become self-haters and cause lots of damage for the Jewish people, they result from the shamas that were drawn down on the night of Nittul.
So, can I ask a question? So, if like, for example, if your mikveh night is on the night of Nittul, should you...
After midnight.
So you should still go to the mikveh, right?
Yes.
Even if you're not intimate with your husband?
Correct.
Okay.
After midnight.
You don't put it
After midnight, it's some are lenient, but also the person can still go. In such situation, the halacha is a person places a garment of the husband under the pillow, if intimacy will not occur on that night.
Why?
It's a Kabbalah.
Interesting.
A garment of the husband under the pillow
Yeah.
if the intimacy doesn't occur that night, but she went to the mikveh.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was a knife.
I didn't want to mention that one. I mentioned just the garment. There's two options. I think the garment makes more sense. Put a knife under your pillow, you move around at night,
You could get
and it's in the hospital the next morning.
yeah.
Okay, that's the end of our Nittul discussion. Amir Hashem, Mashiach will come, and we won't have Nittul tomorrow night. All the game will realize that they were fooled to believe that he was born on this day, or even if he was born, he was a big Russia.
Can I just say
There's
one
nothing
thing?
to celebrate.
One quick thing
And
that'll make you
cancel.
laugh. When I was a little girl, my parents wanted me to go, to see Santa because everybody else did. They didn't want me to feel bad about it, so I could sit on Santa's lap. So I went to go sit on Santa's lap in the mall, and Santa said, "What do you want, honey, for Christmas?" I said, "I'm Jewish." He said, "Me too." I'm serious. This happened.
It does, yeah.
Cause I was,
Right.
it really happened.
So
Okay, I
it
shouldn't
happens to
share
be that Jews are so smart that they know how to even make money off the Goldstein holidays. Yeah.
It really happened.
I believe it, because
Yeah.
you saw Santa rolling up
I
his
mean,
sleeve.
let's be honest. Who created? We went through the history. Who created all these minhagim? Who were you then? They wanted to get the Goyim away from us and have the Goyim support us. We'll sell the trees. Okay, we're continuing in the book of Awaken Like a Jew. We're still in the laws of Ashkamas HaBeker. We are in the midst, towards the end of Siman Gimel, chapter 3 in the Shulchan Aruch. And last week we began the laws of Asher Yotzar. I'll mention the Hashkacha Pratas that happened last week. So if you remember last week at the end of the class, we dealt with the question of may one answer Amen or Kedusha if he's in the middle of Asher Yotzar. And before I said this question, I debated whether I should say it. I said, how common is it already? It's only going to happen if you're in shul and you're hearing it. And I said, I'll say it anyways. That Sunday, last week, someone went over to me in shul and asked me this question. So, this happens quite often. Whenever you think it's not applicable, not realistic, then Hashem reminds you it is. It's actually explained in Sfarim that when you talk about it, it makes people not need to know it. And therefore, in other words, it doesn't have to happen. Sometimes when Hashem makes a situation happen, is so people learn the halachas of Rabbanim before Pesach, are to review all the halachas of Pesach, even the most rare questions, in order to make sure that this area of Torah has been covered. So a question like that doesn't actually have to happen, and then you have to cover it. And it's brought down as Messiah. Okay. So now we're going to go through the meaning of the bracha of Asher Yatza. The Mechaber in the Shulchan Aruch in chapter 6 reviews with us something very unordinary of his style of the purpose of writing in the Shulchan Aruch, but here for whatever reason he makes an exception, and he goes ahead and gives us a list of intents, of meanings, of definitions of the words of Asher Yatzar. And even more interestingly, the Alter Rebbe completely omitted it in his Shulchan Aruch. It's a little strange. We don't really know why. So what we're saying now is we are giving what's written in the Shulchan Aruch based on the Rishonim, and as well we'll add later on meaning according to Kabbalah. So the blessing of Asher Yatzar that we say every time we do a bathroom use, as we explained last week, is recorded in the Gemara in Brachos 60b. And the wording is recorded there. Now there are different nuschais, there are different dialects of the prayer. Some say different siddurim. If you open up different, you'll see there are nuances and differences between them. There are variations. The tradition that many follow, including the Alter Rebbe in his Siddur, is based on the Arizal, which is that Asher Yatzar contains exactly 45 words. What is the 45 words? So the Arizal writes in Shara Kavanis that the correspondence of the 45 words in Asher Yatzar is towards the gematria of Adam. Asher Yatzar es ha'Adam, right? Adam. And also the gematria, and also represents Ma. Memhe is Ma, which represents Chachma. Asher Yatzar es ha'Adam b'Chachma. So to reflect on those two ideas, gematria of Adam and Ma, which is Chachma, it's exactly 45 words. So this is the nusach of majority of Siddurim. But nonetheless, in many Siddurim there are nuschais that have more than 45 words. The Nusach Sfard contain more than 45 words. The Rekeach famously said it should contain 43 words. The Yibet says 47 words. Our custom, the Alter Rebbe in the Siddur, is, as I said, 45. So let's begin. Before I begin going through the details of every word, or the words explained in the Shulchan Aruch, let's just give a general preview or introduction of the necessity to concentrate when saying these brachos. So, in Siman Kuf Pei Hey, chapter 185, which is really dedicated towards the laws of Birchas Hamazon, it gives us a general discussion regarding the necessity to concentrate when saying a blessing. And there, the Alter Rebbe records two opinions in the Rishonim and the Poskim regarding the importance and necessity of concentration. One opinion says that no matter what language one says a blessing in, he is required to understand and concentrate on the words that he is reciting. And if he doesn't fulfill his obligation. He has to say the bracha again. In this opinion, this approach makes a lot of sense. The whole purpose of saying thank you is to show appreciation. Now, if you were thinking of something else when you said thank you didn't really say thank you.
No.
It sounded like you said thank you, but you didn't. So, because of this, the first approach is that even if you're saying a bracha in Hebrew and you technically understand the words, but your mind was wandering into something totally different, and even though it's 2 seconds, it's just a bracha. The Yitzhahara, since it's so important, the Yitzhahara knows how to find that these 2 seconds are so precious to think of other things. It's a big battle, the bracha battle. That's how we know. It doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. What's the big deal? Give me 2 seconds. See how important it is. So as to battle even that. So the first approach is that a person is actually not yetze the bracha if he doesn't concentrate on the words. Practically, there's a second approach that says if you said it in Hebrew and you understand the words, then you are yetze even if you didn't understand. I say Hebrew, I mean Lashon HaKodesh. Even if you don't understand. But the Alter Rebbe there concludes that practically one has to be very careful to concentrate on the blessings, as if he doesn't, he enters into this doubt, this machlekes, if he was even yetze.
So if you say it in Hebrew and you understand what he's saying...
Even if you didn't concentrate with the Evid, we can't tell you to repeat it because there's another opinion, And we have a great rule in brachas, safek brachas lahaka. However, initially, a person has to be aware it's not just that it's an additional cream on top of the cake if you also concentrate on the blessing. The main thing is to say the blessing, and if you concentrate, it's even better. No. If with a bracha without concentration may not be a bracha at all. And therefore, a person has to be very careful to pay attention.
So would it be a bracha levatela if you said it in
According
Hebrew?
to the first opinion, yes.
Oh, wow.
It's a bracha. If a person's not yaitz, it was a bracha levatela.
So if you would say it in English.
If a person says it in English, or let's say I read it in Spanish, and I don't understand Spanish, then he's not yaitz. But to read in another language, you have to understand. To be yaitz a bracha in another language, everyone agrees that you have to understand what you're saying. When you're reading it in Hebrew, that's when we have the debate.
How come they don't do that in Tehillim? The rabbis tell me that I should be saying it in Hebrew because I know Hebrew,
course.
but I don't understand it.
Yeah, but that's because Tehillim is like Torah Shebechsav, where the main point is not the understanding, but the reading of the holy words.
Okay.
By a blessing, the main point is you understanding and you giving thanks to God.
Okay.
If I'm reading it from a siddur or something on the wall, I understand what I'm saying in Hebrew.
Good.
That's a good way to do it.
Yeah. To be actually looking at it.
So this is why also it's so important to learn the meaning of the words,
Yeah.
as if you don't know the meaning of the words, how can you concentrate on what you're saying? Okay, based on this, it's discussed, is a person allowed to do something else in the middle of Asher Yatzah? Saying Asher Yatzah, let's say it takes 10 seconds, it's 10 seconds of your life, a few times a day. It can almost be a whole minute. We're very precious with our time, very precious. So can you do something else during those 10 seconds? And so the halacha is like this. Regarding Birchas Hamazon, it's recorded in chapter 183 that it's forbidden to do anything in the middle of benching. We treat benching similar to Shemona Esrei. You can't talk, you can't even answer Amen during the first three blessings, which are biblical. You cannot do any hefsek, any interval, and you cannot even motion to people in the middle. You can't do anything in the middle of benching. A lot of people don't know this. They pass something over, the middle of some words, but you don't do anything. It's like Shemona Esrei. You can't do anything in the middle of Birchas Hamazon. During the biblical Birchas Hamazon.
When the person who's leading.
Yeah, that you could do, correct. Together with the Zimran, if you're saying it together, if you're together with the Zimran, you can answer Amen for them, correct. But otherwise...
Do you mean up to the Harachamans?
The fourth blessing begins by after Uvenei Yerushalayim. I'll tell you when I make the after Uvenei Yerushalayim. Uvenei Yerushalayim, Baruch Hashem B'nei Yerushalayim, that finishes the biblical blessings, and then we begin the rabbinical blessings. Okay, so that's regarding Birchas Hamazon. Other blessings are not as severe, they're not biblical. And the Alter Rebbe writes, the halacha is as follows. Actions that require concentration, you cannot do, as is a prohibition of turning a blessing into a mundane, routine act, which you're not paying attention to, which we already learned before. You have to pay attention to, you have to concentrate on the blessing. However, actions that do not require concentration, then a person, according to the Alter Rebbe, would be allowed to do even during Asher Yatzah. So, the perfect case example would be, can you dry your hands while you're saying Asher Yatzah? According to the Alter Rebbe's ruling, since it's something that doesn't require concentration, I think, right? There's no wisdom in drying hands. Then you can go ahead and dry your hands in the midst of saying. Not everyone agrees. The Paiskim will say that any action you do requires some focus of the brain, and that focus of the brain will remove you from your focus of Asher Yatzah, and therefore you shouldn't do anything at all. Rebbe is a little more lenient. He says that so long as it doesn't require real concentration, it's a activity that can be done at the same time. It doesn't remove your mind from the blessing, then it's valid. The Seder Hayom, who we've mentioned the Sefer before, was written by its Tzfas resident, one of the Talmidei Arizal. He writes as follows: they want us to say every word of the blessing of Asher Yatzah with concentration, holding in mind the great kindness that Hashem does with man, as we're going to learn very soon in the Shulchan Aruch's interpretation of the bracha. He also continues and writes that saying Asher Yatzah with proper concentration is a great skula for cure of all ailments and as preventive healing, preventive medicine.
So why did
It says as follows. if a person is complete in his attributes and he carefully utters his words, he will not become sick at all of his days and will never need a doctor. Certainly, then want to say the blessing with strong concentration and complete mind to the healer of all flesh. So this is not just a folklore, this is a Messiah written by the Seder Hayim, that saying Ashiyatz with proper concentration helps save trips to the doctor.
So why did my late husband get cancer of the head of the pancreas and die? He never didn't say Asher Yatzah.
So I can't be God's lawyer. I can't answer you for different tragedies that people have had, but one thing's for certain, certainly adding in concentration Ashiyatz and telling the Yitzhahara, listen, you and I both agree we don't like getting sick. You don't like getting sick. I don't like getting sick. So let's do this together. Let's say this with concentration. We'll stop a few, 10 seconds every time we go to the bathroom. Say Ashiyatz with Kavana, and we just learned it. We can tell Hashem, we learned to say the Hayayim. We have a Messiah. We won't need to see doctors.
No need to see doctors.
Okay, let's begin.
I'm all for that. No need to see doctors.
The Chachma. We have 4 different interpretations of what the term B'chachma means. Ashiyatz ha'adam b'chachma, that Hashem created man b'chachma. What is the meaning of B'chachma? So the first interpretation that the Mechaber brings in the Shulchan Aruch is that the creation of man, the human body, is created with tremendous wisdom. You learn anatomy, physiology. You see the tremendous wisdom of God in the body. So we're saying Hashem created man with Chachma, that there was tremendous wisdom involved in how man was created. That's the first interpretation. The second interpretation is that Hashem created the body with Chachma, created in a way that the soul does not escape through the many holes, many orifices that it contains. The soul is like air, and just like air in a balloon, when you make a hole in the balloon, it comes out. So naturally, the soul should come out of the body due to the different holes. And Hashem did it in a way, Hashem created the body and soul in a way that the soul remains in the body even though we have many holes. That's the second interpretation of B'chachma. The third interpretation of B'chachma is recorded in Tosfos. The previous one was from Rashi. Rashi gives one and Tosfos gives another in the Gemara. That we are thanking Hashem that He created us in a wise way, that He created everything before us in the first 5 days. And when we entered the earth, everything was already prepared and ready. All the animals, vegetation, etc. So the creation was created in a way of wisdom. So again, the first one is saying that the body contains wisdom in its creation and how it was created. The second is that it's created in a form of wisdom that the soul doesn't escape. The third is that Hashem created us after everything else. And then we have the fourth one, that Hashem created us with Chachma. So I think most people would answer the fourth one if they were asked, what does it mean, that Hashem created us with wisdom as opposed to animals. So while this reason is recorded in the Marsha, this is not the reasons recorded in the Rishonim and in the Shulchan Aruch, rather the previous reasons that we said. Nekavim, chalulim. What do they refer to, and why do we repeat it? Just say nekavim, chalulim. Why nekavim, chalulim? So nekavim refers to the mouth, nostril, and other holes, which are used to take in and take out. And chalulim refer to the inner organs, which are hollow inside, such as the heart, the stomach, the intestines, that they are hollow. So that's the difference between nekavim and chalulim. Nekavim are external holes, the mouth, the nose, etc., while the chalulim refers to the inner organs. Why do we repeat it? So first of all, we already said we want to have an exact number of 45 words, but also the gematria of chalulim is 248, says the Medrash Tanchum.
Oh, wow.
We want to have it correspond to the Ramach Evon, the 248 names. There's different nuschayos, different versions of how this is written. Some first introduce She'im Yifasech Echad Mehem and then Im Yisasim, while others first do Im Yisasim And then in Pesach, the Gemara actually first introduces Ini Pesach, while, and so is the opinion of some Rishonim, and that was the opinion of Rashi as well, and that's the Litvish Nusach that they followed on Nusach Ashkenaz. They first say Ini Pesach Echad Mehem, and then they say Ini Sosim Echad Mehem, while the Nusach of other Rishonim, the Rambam, the Abu Ram, the Arizal, and the Alter Rebbe is to first introduce Ini Sosim Echad Mehem. What does it refer to? So here we have two interpretations.
Well, let's look at it when he's talking about it.
Okay, you can get a good idea. You can get a sitter. That's a beer over there.
Here? Oh, here.
I think so.
Yeah.
You got one?
Yeah, I can use any of these, I guess. I don't know where it is. Oh, it's small.
It's in the beginning. Okay, so what the first interpretation that's given is that Imi Sasem Echad Mehem refers to the mouth, and we're basically thanking Hashem that if the mouth would close in the mother's womb, the baby is born in a way that it's closed, and the mouth is closed in the mother's womb, and as soon as it leaves, it opens and is able to breathe. If it were to be closed for even one moment, the child would not be able to live for even 1 hour. So we'll not be able to survive. So we're praising Hashem that the mouth of a newborn is able to breathe. An interesting question that's brought down is that the truth is all humans need a mouth to breathe, not just a baby. So they write that a baby doesn't breathe from the nostrils, but breathes from the mouth. But I haven't found that in practically today that's done.
I thought it was the opposite.
Right. They do explain the opposite, that babies breathe from the nose and not from the mouth. But this is what the Mishnah Berurah records.
That's like the baby's nose is plugged up, with mucus.
Right.
And you have to be careful to clear it because then they can't breathe.
Right. So why this example of the baby is given, I'm not exactly sure. But the point is that we need to breathe, and the holes help us breathe. If we don't have holes to breathe, that's called suffocation. Okay, so Im Yisasim Echad Mehem. That's going on the ability to breathe. The second alternative explanation is that it's actually going on the other holes of a person, which are used to remove the body waste, the anus and the urethra. The urethra is called the nekavim. If one of these nekavim were to be closed, then a person would eventually die. We know that's exactly what they have dialysis treatment, right, for kidney failure. If a person is unable to get rid of urine, 3 days.
They would die.
Yeah. So it's unbelievable when you think about it. Going to the bathroom is a absolute necessity of survival. The body would be unable to live if it doesn't use the restroom. So if Hashem would prevent this waste system, if it would shut down due to lack of funding for a week, God forbid, a person would not be able to live.
Wow.
Imis paseach echad mehem. The next phrase, as I said in many nuschais, the other one reverse the phrases. If it were to be open, what are we referring to here? So here too we have two explanations. One is that it's referring to the stomach and intestines. If they were to be punctured, we would not be able to survive. We find this in the laws of trephus, that if the intestine of an animal is punctured, it's considered a treifa. It will not be able to survive more than 12 months. The other interpretation is that it's saying that if the holes of removing body waste were to be constantly open, then the person would not be able to survive, as he wouldn't be able to keep any nutrients down. He would dehydrate. And so therefore Hashem had to make in the perfect way that it has to sometimes be closed and sometimes be open. If it never opens, you can't survive. If it never closes, a person can't survive.
Wow.
Ef shel iskayim, so our nusach is read Ef shel iskayim afilu shah echos, even 1 hour. Others simply write Ef shel lamid lefanecha. It's the difference between the Ashkenazi and the nusach of the Gemara and other nuschais. Reifi chol basar. Some say Reifi choyle kol basar. That's another nusach. Our nusach is Reifei Chol Basar. And the Reifei Chol Basar is going the idea that Hashem heals all flesh. That's referring to, says the Mechaber, of expelling excrement, as going to the bathroom is a cure for the body, as we already mentioned before. If we didn't have that ability, it would make us sick, God forbid. So the idea of going to the bathroom is considered a refuah. Mafli lasais, this is a wondrous event. There's a few different interpretations here of what this means. The first one, the Mechaber suggests, is something similar we said before of the Chachma, that the body is like a flask filled with air, and the air should escape any holes, and the fact that it doesn't escape, that is a wonder that Hashem created in the body. Another interpretation is that the body was created with a ability to separate nutrients from waste. That is a wonder that it's able to do that all on its own. No one's sitting inside and telling us, okay, that's good, that should go there, that throw out. It's all automatic. It's a tremendous, tremendous chachma that the body knows what to absorb and what to expel. Another interpretation brought by the Arizal and the Magen Avram is that it is a wonder that the body and soul connects with each other, that they feed off each other. The body is alive due to the soul, and the soul is attached to the body as a result of food. The food that we eat, so the physical nutrients go to our cells, while the spiritual nutrients contained within all foods goes to our souls, and that's what connects the body to the soul. So it's explained that that's why when a person eats, has a tremendously heavy meal, he feels more sleepy. All the Daled Yesodis, the Daled Yesodis of the Nefesh HaBahamis, the 4 Yesodis of the animal soul, become more emphasized. They become more highlighted. Whether one person, it's expressed that he's more sleepy, another person becomes more lustful. Because it connects the soul more to the body. So the soul is now more entrenched in the physical body and its physical lusts, etc. It's different foundations. However, when a person doesn't eat, so the soul is more separate from the body, and that's what weakness comes from, as the soul is being detached from the body, and eventually a person doesn't eat for a certain amount of time, the soul leaves the body, separates. So the food that we eat is what connects the body to the soul, and the soul to the body, and that's the mafli lasis. All this was according to Halacha. We find, meaning Pshat. In the Sefer Heichal HaKodesh, the student of the Arizal, also a Tfas resident, he gives the following interpretation based on Kabbalah of what the prayer means. So it starts from the beginning. Baruch is referring to the neshama as it goes from the level of Keser, which is above the spiritual world, of Atzilus, and gets drawn into Ata, which is going on the level of Chachma. So this is in Kabbalistic terms, going from Keser to Chachma. It gets a little more understandable. Hashem is that it then gets drawn from Chachma to Bina. It's pretty simple. Baruch Ata Hashem, drawing the neshama from Keser to Chachma to Bina. For all the Kabbalists saying Asher Yatza. And then we have L'Keinu Melech HaOlam, where it goes to Tiferes, so it's making its way down. And Asher Yatza Adam B'Chachma, Hashem created man with Chachma, is saying that man was created with Chachma Batzilus. That's the level that man was created with. Now it gets interesting that everyone can have a kavanah. Kavanah, chalum, chalum. So he says all this is going on the upper spheres, on the upper worlds. That just like we're saying down here, if the holes that remain constantly open refer to, that's the nose and the mouth. So to upstairs, there's channels of divine flow that remain open, and that's for the sake of giving vitality to the spheres, to the neshama, to all the worlds. If those holes would be closed, then if one of those holes would be closed, then nothing below would receive its energy, divine energy, and would cease to exist. So saying, Nekav, which is going on these channels of divine energy, if they were closed, then this would be catastrophic. What is Chalulim going on? Chalulim is going on just like down here we said it's going on the inner limbs. So he's saying that the Chalulim goes over here on the klippas. That the klippas, they are closed in order to receive only a very minute amount of nurture. However, if they would be open, and they would take in tremendous nurture of the klip, of the kedusha, they wouldn't be able to survive. There'd be too much evil in the world. So Hashem created a perfect balance, that the kedusha channels have to be open, while the klipa channels have to be closed, or only slightly open to receive only a little bit of chayus. And if this went ahead and changed around, this would be very detrimental. Okay, that's the end of Asher Yatzar. We're going to continue with other halachas relating to bathrooms. We're on page 174 in the book. We already discussed previously in Siman Aleph regarding washing hands in the morning, and we also touched upon there other times that we wash hands after bathroom use. And so regarding if one must wash hands after using the bathroom, if he's allowed to learn Torah, what we said is that there's a difference between Ruach Ra, the evil spirit that accompanies one's hands when he enters a bathroom, versus dirt that may fall onto the hand when he touches different areas of the body while using the bathroom. And they have different halachic ramifications. Bottom line is that initially we washed our hands, we explained this in the previous classes, with a vessel, just like we do in the morning 3 times, even though from letter of law this is not required. This is the custom. That's how we wash our hands. And it's in order to get rid of the evil spirit. Remember his name?
Sam.
Yes. No,
Sam?
Tony.
Oh, it's Tony.
Yeah. So that's regarding the initial practice. If you don't have water available, or let's say it's Tisha B'Av, etc., we can't wash our hands. So then already we get going into the details of when is washing actually necessary. And the halacha is that just the evil spirit alone does not prevent one from learning Torah or from saying a bracha b'Asher Yatzar. Only if his hands got dirty, touched normally covered areas, as we discussed, that's when you would have to rub your hands on something or wash them with water to be allowed to learn Torah or say Asher Yatzar. But otherwise, if it didn't touch anything, then even though you use the bathroom and there's Ruach Ra, there's an evil spirit on the hands, you would be allowed to learn Torah. And in such a situation, if there isn't any water available, then you just wipe your hands on something and you can say the blessing of Asher Yatzar.
You said last time, I remember, that you shouldn't wash your hands negavasar after you use the bathroom in the bathroom, which is the toilet, correct?
It's best not to
so
do so.
what should I do if I'm on the airplane and that's really, I mean,
Then you have no choice.
So
it's
I have
either
to do
that or you don't wash at all. So
you do
certainly washing in the bathroom is better than not washing at all.
Okay.
Yes.
Is there any Indian to close the toilet seat if that doesn't make a difference?
So while you're washing, while you're doing the washing,
After I wash.
it doesn't really make a difference because the vessel itself is considered a graf shari. It's like covering a piece of dog excrement with excrement. It doesn't help. It's considered itself. Oh yeah, the toilet itself is considered the status itself. So, point is that the entire bathroom is considered a place of tumah. Certainly, the toilet is considered a place of tumah, and therefore, initially we wash outside of our bathroom, and but in the case of need, you don't have it available. Certainly, you could wash inside the bathroom.
Should you also wash your hands with soap before you wash them 3 times? Or
That's a hygienic matter. It's nothing to do with halacha. It's your choice. As long as the hands are clean from dirt, it is permitted.
So, if you're on a plane and you want to daven, I mean, what do you
You wash your hands using the bathroom.
do?
Yeah.
That's it. It's okay.
Or you can use also water by the sink. They have a sink in the kitchen.
They have a sink.
You can use the kitchen sink. Okay, once on that subject, we're going to now begin the halachas of performing holy matters inside of a bathroom. What are the restrictions?
I can't believe you can learn stories of Sadiqim in the bathroom.
We'll get to that.
That's right?
We'll get to that.
It's new.
Okay, so the Torah teaches us that the learning of Torah and davening to Hashem may only be done in areas that are clean of 2 things. One is called Tzaya and the second is called Erva. The pasuk says, Ki Hashem Elokecha mishalech b'kerev machanecha and it should be a holy encampment, and a place that contains excrement is considered an unholy encampment, and therefore it is biblically forbidden to learn Torah inside of a bathroom. The inside of a bathroom is judged as a place similar to Saya, even if it's clean, even if it's been washed down.
So used to what?
Saya is the Hebrew term for feces. And therefore it is forbidden in Torah to learn Torah in such a place. Now, a discussion erupted in the last 100 years regarding bathrooms of today. Back in the day, a bathroom was not as clean as our bathrooms today.
Yeah, thank you.
And they also, the waste remained inside the bathroom itself.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
It didn't leave. And today, with our plumbing system, our bathroom, first of all, the waste leaves the bathroom, and number two, the bathroom is a much more cleaner, more hygienic area. So this erupted a great debate amongst poskim how to treat a bathroom today, and does it have the same status of impurity and prohibition as it did once upon a time.
I was at my sister's house and I was doing davening Shemona Esrei, and I didn't have any bad smell, but all of a sudden I think the baby made in the middle of my Shemona Esrei. I didn't know whether to stop or not, so I kept davening. What would you say?
So even though excrement that is covered is not considered a problem, if the smell reaches a person, it is considered a problem.
I smelled it.
And therefore, in such a situation, first of all, if the baby is below, is very young and doesn't yet eat grains, then it's not a problem. It's not
She's under a year.
I don't know. Maybe she eats grains already. Maybe she has
I don't
porridge.
even know.
So
Yeah.
it depends on that. But it doesn't matter. Bottom line is, such a case, you're allowed to move during Shemona Esrei and go elsewhere.
And you could still be saying it. You don't have to stop.
Stop saying it.
Stop saying it?
Move.
Continue from where you stopped?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
That's what
That's good to know.
Okay, bottom line is that while there has been debates and different discussions of the status of the inside of the bathroom today, practically we are not lenient in this, and therefore the prohibition of learning in a bathroom applies even in today's times, even in today's bathrooms, even if they're completely clean. However, we will discuss other actions in which we'll see in a time of need you can be lenient to do, such as to wash your hands in a bathroom. That's based on the leniency of today's bathrooms aren't as severe as the bathrooms of previous times. But certainly to learn Torah inside of a bathroom, we will retain that prohibition even in today's bathrooms. An interesting discussion in the poskim is regarding performing a mitzvah in the bathroom. Is the prohibition only against learning or also against performing a mitzvah? And, for example, if is a person allowed to give tzedakah in a bathroom? Can he, today with the phone, so you can give tzedakah through your phone. You can send money to a tzedakah institution.
You're not supposed to talk in that.
Right.
We're not talking to anyone, and no one's talking to us. It's just pressing buttons. We're just tapping a screen. That's all you're doing. If someone from 100 years ago saw what you were doing, they would say you're not doing anything wrong. You're just tapping a piece of
Plastic.
yeah, not plastic thing. Just tapping something. Two captains in the bathroom. What's wrong with that? Right. So bottom line is that this matter is under debate, and the best thing is that a person should avoid doing mitzvahs inside of a bathroom. This is based on the Zohar and other sources, but there is no clear ruling regarding mitzvahs. Based on this, we can say the famous story that occurred with Rabbi Melech of Lezhinsk and his brother Zusha. They were placed inside of a incarceration with a bucket of filth.
Oh,
They couldn't
yeah.
put on tefillin.
That's a good story.
So if they would have asked me, based on this, we would say that don't say a bracha, you can't say a bracha, but you can put on tefillin without a bracha. Because when I did, a mitzvah, we'll try to avoid it, but that's your only choice, and otherwise it's going to be that or not doing the mitzvah at all. So we have to, as the Rebbe once pointed out to Rav Zevin, be very, very careful with your stories and make sure to bring a source for all of them, because I've read many of your stories that have halachic contradictions, And unfortunately, the Rebbe writes this in his letter to Rav Zevin. Rav Zevin, he wrote the books, he put Chassidim. He wrote to him about that book. And after that letter, he actually put the sources in the back. But the Rebbe wrote to him that human psyche, human nature is that they'll rather believe a story than believe a halacha. So if they hear a story about something that was done, they'll say the story overrides the halacha, when in truth, the story never really happened in that exact way. And so the Rebbe said you have to be very careful with stories. But obviously this is only regarding performing a mitzvah, but thinking about a mitzvah, thinking about the halachas, the Torah, that's obviously biblically forbidden, as we've already said, that you cannot learn Torah inside of the bathroom, even in the bathrooms today. Now what does a person do if a shiur is playing and you need to use the bathroom? Well, this happens often in shul. Someone's giving a speech using the bathroom, you can still hear. So it's very simple. Just like many people don't pay attention to what he's saying in the shul, they follow the same thing out of the shul.
Right.
But initially, because of this, a shul should not build a bathroom close enough that people who are in the bathroom can hear the shiur. Because sometimes, he's saying some good stuff, you're paying attention. It's kind of hard. Even thinking words of Torah is forbidden, that's why it's a problem. What should one think about in the bathroom? So the Alter Rebbe writes in chapter 85 that the subjects that the person should think about during the week, since you can't think of Torah, you should think of something else. As the premises that we're relying on is that the mind is always thinking. The mind is always running. There's no such thing as the mind just going blank. It's always thinking about something. So we have to put something in there that is not Torah learning. So the Alter Rebbe writes that inside the bathroom, that's a time to do accounting of finances. So a person doesn't think of Torah words. And on Shabbos that you can't calculate your finances. He writes, based on the Shlah, a person should look at beautiful buildings, think of pictures, go on a little daydream, on a vacation somewhere, and that will remove his mind from holy matters. Despite this, it's recorded that a person who can't manage to remove his mind from sinful material is allowed to learn Torah even in the bathroom to remove his mind from sinful thoughts. So, Torah is allowed to be used to remove the mind from having sinful thoughts in the bathroom. An interesting question that some poskim discuss is if you think about God in the bathroom. You can't think Torah, so I can't think about, halachas and, the parsha and stuff like that. But can you think about God? I don't know, think about philosophy, think about God, think something in Chassidus in the bathroom. So what should be the obvious answer?
No.
The obvious answer should be no. And that is the obvious answer. That's what the Rebbe once in the talk said, that obviously that's the answer. It's forbidden to think about God in the bathroom. But we find that some poskim have written the basis for it being allowed. That only the actual thinking of actual Torah is forbidden. Thinking about Hashem in the bathroom is permitted. And they actually, one of the poskim who write is actually a chassid, and he writes it based on Tanya. He gives a whole pilpul based on Tanya, why it's allowed. Practically, it shouldn't be done. Regarding stories of tzaddikim. So obviously stories from Tanakh, from the Talmud and Yaakov, all this is forbidden in the bathroom because it's actual words of Torah. However, stories of other tzaddikim is permitted. You can read stories of Daily Yisrael in the bathroom, it's mutter. And there's a story printed in Shmos V'Sipurim that the Alter Rebbe, he was one time sick and he had to have different bath treatments in which he was told, he asked, because the Alter Rebbe's mind was only Torah. Even the great secular wisdom the Alter Rebbe had was connected to Torah. And the mind was always running. So it would be impossible for him not to think of Torah in the bathroom. So he asked his children, especially sitting in the bath for a long time, so he asked his sons to come in and take turns of reading him Sipurei Tzaddikim. That's what they did. He was in the bath, and he was have Sipurei Tzaddikim read to him. And what Shmos V'Sipurim writes is that when they came to a story, when his son, Rabbi Avram, son of the Alter Rebbe, began saying a story of the Shmelka of Nikolsburg, he said, stop here, don't say a story about him, as he's, I'll tell you later who he was and how special of a tzaddik he was, but him I don't want you to say a story of inside the bathroom. Meaning it was more something of that he wanted to revere more than everyone else, so therefore, but the bottom line is that stories are permitted, in the bathroom. So you can learn history. Wikipedia has history of many daily Yisrael. You're allowed to read inside of the bathroom. There's no prohibition in doing so. It's not considered.
What about singing songs?
We already mentioned we're not to talk in the bathroom. We don't. The voice of a Jew. It
Even
feeds
but in the shower.
Feeds toning.
Even in the shower?
A shower is likewise a place of tumah similar to a bathroom. You give it the same halacha. So a Jew should
not
initially abstain from feeding the klipos with his holy voice. The story that the Alter Rebbe there then went ahead and told his sons afterwards was a fascinating story of how Reb Shmelka of Nikolsburg once resurrected an individual, brought him from the dead. The story is that this individual, get the story clear again. This individual was very wealthy. There's a few nuschayos of how the story is said. Some say the story with the Baal Shem Tov and the night of the Yehuda. But this is the story that's recorded from Yisrael that the Alter said happened with Shmelka of Nikolsburg. There was an individual, a very wealthy individual from Nikolsburg, who was basically lost his parnasa. So he went from being wealthy to being destitute, and he received to go around and collect money in different neighborhoods in different cities. And this is what he did. And one time he was offered, other aniyim that were with him saw he's very successful, and so it's because he has the askama, the approbation of the Rav of Nikolsburg. So he offered to buy his approbation from him. And he sold his approbation to him for a certain sum of money.
What's approbation?
Askama. Askamas to books.
Yes, okay.
So he wrote him a letter of, it's a letter of saying that basically, he's a good guy, he's a poor person, I encourage everyone to give him money for stuff. Wow. So an ani that had such a letter, people would be people would give him. So he sold this letter to a different ani, and basically on his way home, with all of his cash, he got robbed, and he ended up becoming destitute, and because of this, he had to collect it again, and years went by, and he didn't return to Nikolsburg. After many years, he finally returned to Nikolsburg, and he went inside the city. He came to the base medrash. It's the best place to come to collect money, have a free meal. Maybe there's a bris or a wedding going on. And he goes there, and what is, lo and behold, he sees his wife he sees that the bris of his wife's son has taken place. He wasn't there for many years. What does he discover? That his wife, they thought he was dead because they found a guy with the letter that he sold. He sold the letter to passed away. They assume that he is the husband because he was the one that held the letter. He sold the letter. And so she remarried. As in passing that she could remarry. So she remarried and she had a son, and this was the day of the bris. He walks into the shul. When his wife saw him, so the Alter Rebbe says that his wife was so shocked that she passed away on the spot.
Wow.
She died on the spot from shock. The Shmelka of Nikolsburg he was in the shul, heard the whole commotion, and he said, it's completely unfair that this wife should suffer while the husband stays alive. They should switch places. And Alter Rebbe says that she came back to life and he passed away.
Wow.
This was the story they said, Alter Rebbe said of Shmelka. He performed Chiyas HaMesim B'Rami.
Wow.
The Alter Rebbe performed Chiyas HaMesim.
No.
He said it of Rav Shmelka of Nikolsburg. He said the story. This is the story he said that occurred with Shmelka of Nikolsburg.
Shmelka of Nikolsburg did
That's why his sons couldn't read him that story when he was in a bath, because he was such a holy person.
Yeah.
So he brought the one back to life.
Yeah.
And then the man that was the husband before died.
Yeah. He said he should switch places. All the adherences that we follow inside of a bathroom. From the letter of the law, it is permitted to speak Lashon HaKodesh in a bathroom, even though Lashon HaKodesh is the holy tongue, and we would therefore associate it with holiness and not be allowed to be said in the bathroom. But bottom line is that it's mutter to speak Lashon HaKodesh in the bathroom, but the Alter Rebbe concludes in chapter 85 that it is proper, it's an act of piety not to do so. So anyone who's bilingual and speaks Hebrew in another language should try to avoid saying things in Lashon HaKodesh in the bathroom. The good news is that Hebrew is not really Lashon HaKodesh.
No.
It's defined as another language. It's not really defined as Lashon HaKodesh.
So what is?
So there's no... What is Lashon HaKodesh? Lashon HaKodesh is the original Hebrew that was spoken by the Jewish people in the whole world.
So it's not called.
Back in
What
the
is
day.
it called though?
Ivrit.
It's not what we're speaking now.
We don't call it... Now we're speaking English.
No, אבל עכשיו אני מדברת עברית, זה לא?
Nachon, you just said it. Ivrit. You didn't say Lashon HaKodesh.
Oh, okay.
Ask the average Israeli. Do you speak Lashon HaKodesh or Ivrit? They'll say Ivrit.
Oh, okay.
So Ivrit is a new language that composes words from Lashon HaKodesh, but also words from other languages, like refrigerator.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
That's in Lashon HaKodesh. Where in Tanakh does it say refrigerator?
Right. Okay.
There's many, many words, and the way the words are said that are not originally in Lashon HaKodesh.
So you can speak that in the bathroom, the Ivrit. But it's better if you don't.
Ivrit, so I personally try not to because it contains many words of Lashon HaKodesh,
Yeah.
and therefore, it's better to speak a different language inside of a bathroom. But minadin, it's all mutter.
You're not supposed to speak in the bathroom anyway.
Correct. You're not supposed to speak in a bathroom anyway, that's true, but let's say in a bath.
Ah,
Say you're bathing your
that's
children.
true. The toilet's different than the
Let's say you're bathing your children.
Oh, you told
Let's
Yeah.
say you're there,
Yeah.
you're doing something, you're brushing your teeth.
That's one place you're not supposed to brush your teeth.
Yeah, that's probably gross, isn't it?
Why?
Because, in a bathroom with a toilet,
Brush your teeth.
because then you're not supposed to store your toothbrush there,
Right.
because all the bacteria, like millions of
That's
bacteria go up in the
Yeah.
air.
The truth is, I don't brush my toothbrush in the bathroom. I don't brush my teeth in the bathroom. That's interesting. I never thought
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
It's very
It's
interesting
true.
because it's true. I mean, you put the stuff in your mouth.
Can you
It's hard.
imagine?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gross. when you
But we
do
have
that.
cabinets. The cabinet really, I guess, protects
Yeah,
it.
if it's in a cabinet, but
Okay.
better do it
Better to do
outside.
it outside.
Okay. Mentioning God's name in a bathroom. So it is Asur, the Al-Tibet brings, and also the Mechar brings, chapter 85. It's forbidden to mention one of the designated names of Hashem in a bathroom, any one of the 7 names. Furthermore, even names of Hashem in English, in foreign languages, may not be said in the bathroom. So you can't say, with God's help, and you're in a bathroom. Or in a bathroom which even doesn't have a toilet, but has a bath, has a shower. And we avoid saying Hashem's name in any language, whether Got or Boga in Russian and Polish. I'll tell you lists all these different names. Deus in Spanish and Portuguese that we avoid saying. We're on page 180 on
Hashem.
top. Hashem is not Hashem's name, so Hashem just means the name. So you say in English, with the help of the name, I will be able to. So Hashem doesn't really mean. I mean, we basically created the word Hashem in order to not say Hashem's name.
Right.
So if we made it that Hashem cannot be said in the bathroom and it has kedusha, then we'll have to make up a new name instead of Hashem. Many people don't do it simply because they want to give it extra holiness to the term Hashem. So we say BH instead of or Beis Hey instead of Baruch Hashem in the bathroom. But nonetheless, from the letter of the law, it is not a problem.
I had one time recently this year where I was so sick that I passed out in the bathroom, and I was on the bathroom floor and I couldn't move. It was really bad. My husband got really nervous, and all I kept thinking in my head is, God, please help me get better and get up. So that was not right. I shouldn't have.
Well, that's not so simple that was no good. First of all, here we're saying about saying the word, not thinking.
Oh.
And that's number one. It is discussed, an interesting question, if you are allowed to daven to Hashem in a bathroom. That's an interesting question that is discussed in and the siding approaches that a person shouldn't do so, but in the case of need, where it's a sakana, a person can do anything for sakana, including this.
Right.
What happens when women are in labour and they have to go into the bathroom?
What's the problem?
Oh, it hurts and yell and scream and shout and...
That's not a problem. That's not a problem for being in a
Oh,
bathroom.
is it?
They just shouldn't shout at God. Leave him out.
Shout at their husband, yeah.
Okay, the word shalom. So the word shalom, we said before, we avoid saying Hashem's names. It happens to be that shalom is one of Hashem's names. We find this halacha regarding erasing the word shalom, and therefore it is forbidden, as written in Shulchan Aruch, to say shalom aleichem to someone in the bathroom. Shalom is the name of Hashem. Now what about someone a friend of yours or a child whose name is Shalom? And he's in the bathroom, or you're in the bathroom. What do you do? Or let's say in a mikveh, in a bathhouse, do you have to abstain from saying his name? So this is a machlekes. Some say that when your intent is on someone else's name, not on Hashem's name, then it is not a problem. And practically this is the minhag. The Alter Rebbe concludes to be lenient, to allow calling people by the name Shalom, if their name is Shalom, in a bathroom. But what we definitely don't do is we don't say Shalom. So if somebody's in the middle of doing repair work in the bathroom, or doing whatever they're doing in the bathroom, they answer their phone, they shouldn't say Shalom. Not Shalom. It's forbidden to say Shalom.
In the bathroom.
Yes.
Yeah, you shouldn't.
Yeah. But if his name is Shalom, so you can answer Shalom, and just don't say Shalom Shalom. That you can't say. Shalom, one Shalom you can say. Just for his name. Once on the subject, we'll make mention that just like we find the halacha that prohibits one from saying these names in the bathroom, even if they're in English, so too a person is not allowed to write down these names, even in English, as what may happen with the paper. If the paper, for example, if on this piece of paper you wrote, one may not say G-O-D. Mm-hmm. You just wrote Hashem's name in English.
Then you get to write away.
That name may not be belittled. That piece of paper now has to have a certain level of sanctity. Be treated with sanctity. It can't be thrown in the garbage. And if people write Hashem's names on different pieces of paper or different surfaces, it can end up getting into the garbage, and that's a great desecration, a great prohibition to do so. And therefore, the Achronim scream against the practice of people writing God's name even in foreign languages, and the sinner may not do so. The Nesivos HaMishpat writes something quite severe that, unfortunately, Aruch HaShulchan as well, that this causes poverty amongst the Jewish people when God's name is thrown into waste. And therefore, they severely warn not to write Hashem's name. It should always be written with a dash or an abbreviation, but should never be written in full, even in a foreign language, because of the Kedusha. Same thing with the word Shalom. So I was asked recently if it's permitted for someone's children to continue doing what they've been doing, which is Erev Shabbos, they would go onto the sidewalk and use chalk to write Shabbat Shalom on the floor and make a whole pretty picture and Shabbat Shalom. So
before Shabbos.
Before Shabbos, of course.
Yeah, okay.
So Baruch Hashem, he had the wisdom to ask the Shiloh, because it's 100% forbidden. As the word Shalom is the name of Hashem, and people are stepping on it. So I told him you have to write Shabbat and then just shin with a dash, or write it in English. America, this is in America. Or, Shabbat Shalom you can't write. You can't write the word Shalom. Even the word Shabbos, some say, is a name of Hashem. But certainly Shalom is a halacha, and it's a prohibition to have it written here that people are going to step with their feet. Even though, Menadin, these words can be erased, they don't have a prohibition against erasing them. You're allowed to erase in G-O-D. If you wrote G-O-D in this piece of paper, you're allowed to erase it. Unlike if you wrote Yud Kei Vav Kei, you would not be allowed to erase it. Nonetheless, it still carries Kedusha to it.
So then writing things electronically that you...
We did a Deilach on that, and we explained that electronically is not considered written.
Okay.
But nonetheless, what we do have to be careful is that if it's going to get printed, so you're right, in the writing on the screen, it's nothing yet. But as soon as it's printed, it is something. So where will that paper end up? So anything that's
Okay.
printed, why in all my writing I always write G-D. Look here,
Even
over here.
in the computer, even
Right here,
the
page
email.
181. G-D.
G dash D.
Yeah.
So where I've written Shalom here, should I write?
No, Shalom. Well, right. Shalom is the name of Hashem,
Yeah.
and it does
It
retain
is?
some. Yeah, we just said
Yeah,
the name of
we just-
I
Hashem
missed that, sorry.
it retains sanctity.
So I should not write that or write it with a dash.
Yeah, that's the minute. The Mechaber writes in Yeridei 276 that the custom is not to write in its entirety.
And the same with Hashem. Right. H.
No, Hashem. Hashem is not the name.
No,
Sometimes you see people write H and then the dash.
They probably
No,
don't
no,
understand that
that's
that's
not. That's for sure.
you don't need to.
I already
You don't need to
explained
do
it's
that.
not the name of Hashem. It just means the
The
name.
The
name,
name.
It's a covering up of Hashem's name.
right.
So you could write.
So that is absolutely.
Yeah.
That, as I said, does not have kedusha. But even other terms like Almighty, other Lord, they all refer to Hashem. It's also recorded, Yaakov writes, something that's very common amongst people that we don't know, that since even names of Hashem in other languages are considered Hashem's name, when it's not allowed to thank Hashem using those terms. So it's very common for people to say thank G-O-D. That's considered a bracha levatala.
What is it?
A person should use other words. He should say
Which
thank
book?
the Almighty. What's that?
What did you say originally? I didn't hear you.
People are very used to saying thank G-O-D.
Oh,
How are you
oh,
doing?
yeah. Right, yeah.
Thank G-O-D.
You shouldn't
Can't say
say
that.
that.
They're not aware that it's written in Alter right City Samanin, as well as in other places, that it's forbidden, that it's considered a blessing in vain to use the name of Hashem, even in a foreign language, to thank Him. If a person just won the lottery, and he says, thank G-O-D, okay. He just found out that his wife had a baby boy or a baby girl, thank G-O-D, that everyone's healthy. If there's a good news and a reason to thank Hashem, then it's okay. But if it's just out of ordinary to answer the phone, oh, thank G-O-D, so that is to be avoided. Al-Tebbe writes considered a shame, saying Hashem's name is considered like a bracha levatala. And a person should use another term, so thank the one above, thank the Almighty, thank,
Thank goodness, thank.
yeah. Or if the person understands Hebrew, just say Baruch Hashem. That's why we say Baruch Hashem. If a person would say Baruch Elokim, he would say Hashem's name, he would also be under the prohibition.
Isn't that a lack of respect to say Baruch Elohim?
No,
It sounds like it would
if
be.
that's what I'm saying. It's also to say, choose Hashem's name itself.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll conclude with one more halacha. We're almost done this subject. We'll finish it next week. One more halacha regarding bathroom use, and that is, are you allowed to daven or learn near a bathroom?
Near.
Outside.
Outside.
If it's closed, why not? If the door's closed.
So there's been a lot of discussion about this subject. In the Paiskin, there's a lot of discussion about this, different approaches, different ways of understanding the Gemara. And the halacha is as follows. This is the bottom line halacha of how we rule. A bathroom is not just that the inside area is considered tameh, but even the walls, since they're designated for bathroom use, for the bathroom, they absorb the tumah. Not everyone agrees to this. The Mechaber and Shulchan Aruch is of the approach that walls are not tameh, and only inside of the bathroom is it prohibited to learn Torah and daven, but outside of a bathroom it is permitted. However, the Achrayim, the Poskim, argue on his approach, and they say that even the walls themselves are considered like actual soil, like actual feces, which contains the prohibition of learning Torah. Now, practically, even the stringent opinion, which is how we follow, limit it to only specific cases. They limit this idea only to cases where the wall of the bathroom is not shared for another purpose. And they give an example. If a person builds a 4-boxed room in his courtyard, and that room is called the bathroom, But since the wall serves only as the purpose of the bathroom, therefore it is considered saya. According to the ruling of the Achronim, we do not, and a person not allowed to learn Torah or daven within 4 cubits from distance from it, or within his eyesight. Practically, most people today no longer have cubicle bathrooms in their backyards. It's part of our home. The only time this type of bathroom would be applicable is in parks. Parks and rest stops contain mobile bathrooms, and those bathrooms, based on this stringent approach, are considered actual feces, and it's forbidden to learn Torah within 4 amas of it, or within your eyesight. You see this in Meron, when Lag BaOmer, a lot of people go there, and there's a minyanim happening everywhere. I remember every year I would go up, I would have to tell people, what are you doing? You're looking right at the bathroom. The bathroom is its own 4 walls. And therefore you can't. Now there are poskim, as I said, who are lenient. First of all, we have the mechaber who's lenient, and we also have poskim who say that first of all, bathrooms of today don't have the same impurity. That doesn't stay inside the bathroom. The excrement it goes out because of the plumbing. Others say that only the toilet is considered today. That we have toilets. The toilet is considered like the walls, while the walls are considered like the walls of the walls. So you can daven in front of the wall, in front of the wall. So that's another reason that other poskim are lenient. Other poskim say that the walls don't. Back in the day, the walls of the bathroom, the feces were everywhere. It was a mess. But today, everything's more organized, and therefore, as the Chazon Ish says, since the urine and the feces don't hit the walls of the bathroom not. So we have a whole bunch of poskim who give different justifications for why walls today would not be considered like the same status of the bathroom. Bottom line is that a person should be stringent. There's arguments against each one of these leniencies. However, this is only by the walls of a bathroom, as I said, has its own structure. Over the bathroom of a room, the bathroom of a home, a building, since it's sharing it with other places, meaning the building itself, the wall is also part of the building. Therefore, it's not considered, according to any opinion, to the status of Tzaya, and it is permitted to learn or daven next to it. So on an airplane, if you're making a minyan, next to on the back of the plane where the bathrooms are. If the door is closed, the mechitza is closed, it's not a problem. If the door is open, if you see the toilet, then we would all agree it's forbidden to daven or learn in that site or within 4 amas of it. But if the door is closed, it's a mechitza, it's considered 2 separate areas, and therefore it would be permitted to do so. Okay, that's it. That's it for today.
My friend told me to ask a Rob, so I wanted to ask you. Me and my husband are going to do some form of shlichus, because he's going to be teaching in different shuls, around New Jersey and Maryland.
Okay.
And it's his